my reason is for one that you may share, possibly. I have a very low tolerance level for stupid bullshit.
Now, y'all thought y'all could get that past us. Welcome to the Dissect the BS podcast. I'm Uzo.
And I am RJ.
And today we are going to do a deep dive into part 1 of the book. I actually forgot what the name is.
Thugs and the Women Who Love Them by Wahida Clark.
One more time for the people in the back.
Thugs and the Women Who Love Them by Wahida Clark. A saga from the streets.
Love it. I love it. Okay, so my first thoughts on this book is that there was a lot of things going on. It was, so the book is split up in, I believe, 3 or 4 parts based off of the lives of 3 or 4 friends. I can't confirm if it's 3 or 4, but part 1 was Angel.
Yes, Angel.
Yes. And honestly, Angel had a lot going on. So it opens up as Angel, like she's leaving a department store and she's just committed check fraud. And she's like, ooh, I hit up this, I go here all the time. And last time I was here, I bought like $10,000 worth of stuff. I scheme. Right? So she messes around and gets caught by a perfume clerk that saw her the last time. Yes, from Macy's. So this lady is like ducking and dodging through the malls and escalators, running from the dang mall cops. And in my head, I was like, I didn't even think the mall cops are supposed to chase you that far.
I know, but I mean, the girl was on the run, obviously, just making her circuit through theft and just reselling for the girls.
Right.
What do they call it? Consignment for those that do it professionally.
I'm screaming. Not consignment.
But yeah, she was bobbing and weaving.
Yes.
I mean, she ran to her green Honda Civic through the midst of everything, and the cop was banging. It was just giving me very much ghetto fab, and I was here for it.
And what I love though, so Angel, she is a very smart girl. She finished her undergraduate degree in 3 years. Now she's in law school and she wants to graduate in 1 year, and there's really not enough time in a day for her to be a full-time law student work. So she schemes, and I'm just like, you as a law student, if you get caught, your life is over. Yeah.
It's just, but it's that life and the mentality. I mean, as we get into, the end of Angel just coming out of running through the mall like a hot girl and barely skating through without having her mom and her boyfriend, who we learn about in chapter 2, they're kicking the door down, waving the 4-4. Oh, you heard of something? Don't hit me no more. It was giving like very much abuse.
It was giving, I don't even know you and I hate you. But what I know is that my girlfriend used to date you. How would you feel if she held you down?
Yeah, it was giving Love Is Blind. It was a lot. It was, but that's the classic. You introduce this lifestyle. Obviously, Angel's out here trying to get the coins of her life, through the gutter, street smart, hustling, beating the system, and fighting the man, right? Okay, so you step into chapter 2, and obviously there's some shit going down between her and her boyfriend, and he is not here for her study partner.
Much.
It was just like the detail of him beating her ass with no resolve, and the mom, Julie, sitting at the desk, just being just worrisome and like, child, I got nothing to do with me. It was
my God.
Mess. So I was living for that whole Krishan and Blueface, like, nigga,
basically.
I'm gonna shoot you, but touch you with that 9-inch pole, and I just am like,
my God.
It was giving very much like I was cackling as I was reading.
Was cringing. I was like, now what type of ghetto love story is Wahida? Like, honey, what have you been through, Wahida, for you to be writing books like this? Because she ain't been through nothing. It didn't even sound realistic.
I feel like Wahida was in jail.
When she was writing these
in jail?
books?
I think so
Did
because
you read the
maybe she was
prelogue?
I did.
Oh, I didn't read any of that. So did that provide extra
I feel
context?
like she was shouting out the COs who was like printing off the stuff, but she couldn't print it in the inmates from the inmates printer because
that
it
adds
wasn't working.
context.
Yeah, so it was giving me like I was cackling, but I'm like, girl, what did you do?
This was a hobby of Wahida's while she was doing when she was doing 5 to 10. She even
gave a copy to Free from 106 in part. Like, the girl she was hustling, trying to get the story out there. And I mean, it resonates. We all love a good hood tale, which I think from the intro in chapter 2, you got this guy, and she's like, I'm not one of your hoes, Keenan. Cut the shit. When he was just like calling her out of her name and whatnot. Yeah. It was giving very much. I'm here for this tale.
I just was so, I don't know. I didn't like how all of that vicious beating turned into like a lovemaking session, and the mom was listening, and the mom and the sister can hear everything, and nobody cares because the rent is paid.
That's true.
Very, very toxic.
Yeah.
And then he leaves the apartment just to find one of his, or no, he gets a call from Big Nell.
He gets a call from Big Nell. She locked up.
Yeah, who's locked up. She is the faithful hoe, or what have you. She got locked up. He's not gonna bail her out.
No.
All that good stuff. And then there was another one on the floor who was
Lexus.
What was she high off of? Heroin?
She was high off of heroin, yeah.
He beats her on the way out. So I'm like, so you just run into people beating them up. Like, you just don't care. And I don't know if you noticed this, but in the descriptions of everyone, I was like, why is everybody like
a car?
Huh?
A car or some object? Because that's what I was thinking.
Oh no, I was just like, when she was describing everyone, it was like, oh, like it seemed like colors. Like, I don't, did you get that?
Yeah.
I was like, why? Yeah. Except for Big Nell, who was like chocolate and Dominican.
Yeah, but she looked Cuban, or she was the luxury. She was every white man's fantasy.
Yeah, which is kind of like white men do like big, dark-skinned girls.
Yeah, I did feel like, it was that fetishistic kind of, there's a term, I forgot, race play kind of thing.
Yeah.
With Big Nell and the white man, even the size of their penis.
Absolutely.
But then again, this is written.
Oh, we're jumping. This is like what, chapter 6?
Yes. I know.
I know, but you're fine. Let's get into it because the book jumped around.
The book does jump around.
Go ahead.
So,
go
off. It's going to be hard to talk about the situation because everything is everywhere. But yeah, with Big Nell and her obviously getting the big coins from the White Johns, it was something where it was just like, because of her voluptuousness and her body, she stuck around. And even the trope of like being the mommy. Yeah. Like, she was the oldest one. She was the most loyal.
Mommy or mammy?
Oh,
it was giving mammy.
Yes, it's giving mammy. You're right. She was the oldest, most loyal, cooking him food like, consecutively. I mean, even when he beat her ass, he beat her ass at least 2 times that I'm aware of. Yeah. But when he beat her ass at the I think at the club, at the club, where she got the biggest ass whooping, obviously, and the waitress was trying to flirt with Snake, Angel's man or whatever, and trying to get in with him. She brought him food. She brought him a steak, like, and it's just all daddy. He's big pimping, and she blows him before proceeding
to kill him.
Just like, I know, but it was just like, for me, I appreciated the ridiculousness of it all. But I will say, like, I wasn't as compelled with Angel as the character, although it was her story in a way, and it's still going because it goes to her
she
friend.
Was kind of basic. I was like, Angel, what do you do again?
Yeah, like,
I'm more interested in Big Nell.
And also, I mean, one of the biggest like things that happened.
Her brother?
Crazy. Yeah, Willie Wright.
So let's talk about that. Because I was like, it seemed like Wahida got to like chapter 4 and was like, oh, like let me do some character development. And so she threw in a random chapter breaking down Angel's family structure. And it was like literally a page long. It was like, she had two good
Big
parents
Red.
Hood, everybody was fine in the family.
Wright.
Yeah, Willie Wright, because I'm like, did this take place in 1978? Like, I was also confused, but they had cell phones. So I was like, okay, this must have been like 98, 99. It could take place after 2004.
No.
At the latest, because even like the references, the songs.
Yeah, it was published in 2004. I had to go.
Okay, got you. Because it was confusing. I was like, what time was this? But yeah, like with our brother. So apparently the brother, even though nobody told him he was getting this, but I was like, at what point were you advised that you would be getting this present? But he thought
the bike of it all.
He thought that he would get a motorbike for Christmas because, his parents had a little bit more money because, they was together working regular jobs. And so he was bragging, telling everybody, doing all the stuff, being extra. He gets a regular Schwinn.
Yeah.
And decides that that's cause to burn down a building.
I know.
So something as petty as that turns into him being confronted by the police with the AR-15. And he's like, I'm not going down without a fight. The police. And he ends up getting sprayed up at 14.
It was just very like
nowhere.
Whirlwind. Like it was like, everyone loved, and it was just like, okay, Angel looked up to Willie Wright. I'm like, oh, okay, he's getting good grades. He's doing good. Now the situation happens with the whole bike thing, and now he burns up Big Red's automobile shop, and he's like, yeah, Big Red loves his shop more than me. Who's gonna love now? Then he obviously is talking a big game. The cops come bust him while he's talking to his friends on the stoop. He runs up and goes and gets his dad's shotgun, comes back down. Julia, the mom, is like, no, it's giving very Boys in the Hood.
But my thing is like, why did they shoot him up after he put down the shot? Because he
didn't
not
put it down?
Oh, I thought that he had put it down.
No, he didn't put it down.
In what world do we do this for a motorbike?
Even now, the motherfucking kids is crazy. So, Willie Wright, I mean, as strange as it sounds, like I unfortunately don't know directly any people that act like this, but they do exist. Like, and it's not that far-fetched, but it was the term like the trigger happy police. The bitch did not put down the gun, which is why he was shot. So no one was trigger happy. I think that's where we need to like get it back on.
Right, get that clear.
Like Willie was not in the right.
It was fantasizing because it's like, in what world does a seemingly a good kid who doesn't get in trouble all of a sudden commit an arson and threaten the police all in one day? I don't think that's realistic either, because they were like, oh, Willie Wright was basically perfect, and now he's like a criminal.
Yeah, urban literature, oftentimes, like, I feel like low-key, there are stories like Lord of the Rings in the urban world, and this is one of them. Because I'm like, it's all happening so fast.
I'm screaming.
Like, so fast.
Not like, Lord of the Rings for Black people.
It's just giving damn, God. Like, what is going on? You have this pimp who was like everything on the street, get his ass beat off from a blowjob from Big Mel. Like, I mean,
we gotta but before we unpack that, another part of this scene was, okay, so all this happens, the son gets blown away, and then the dad disappears and never comes back again.
But wait, before that, he was gonna take the blame for the arson.
But we saw who did it.
Like, I know, so why does he know it? No, it was
because he punched a cop when they were trying to get him.
Yes, exactly. And he was going to take the blame. Or Wahida said.
And that's like another cycle of just, rallying behind bad behavior. He burned down a whole building, and you were going to say you did it.
Exactly.
Because you didn't buy him a bite. After that, honestly, I tapped out because it seemed like it was Snake beating people up.
He beat up Ice. She was the white one.
Yeah.
That was the working girl. Yeah, he was just sitting in that Mercedes thinking about his life, and then he lost it just like that.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to think about what happened before that. I mean, I know she met with her girls and like recap some more the love story, which I guess is important between Angel and Snake. Like Julia knew, despite her working hard trying to be a licensed insurance agent, that her daughter wasn't shit, and like she was living in this fantasy of somehow thinking she was making all this money and living this life when Julia was out here with the pimp. And she did know that because she knew of his uncles and cousins and whatever. And Angel still went to that restaurant, and then the rest was history. With them, and he loved her. He thinks about all these things, and he likes her because she fights back. One that was like so just like messy. Like no matter what 9-inch penis you have or how much money, you cannot be abusing me.
The 9-inch penis is not that appealing if we don't know exactly what's being done with it. If anything, that's painful.
I know.
Like, let's keep that real. Like, that's one thing. Us in the culture, we need to keep that real. These people with these gigantic penises.
Oh my God.
It's very painful. If you don't know what you're doing with it, if you don't properly lubricate, we need to stop acting like, oh, he got a big thing. That's not necessarily good.
No.
That's not necessarily good.
You can't just ram it in there. In a vagina or an ass.
Oh my God. Definitely.
A mouth, maybe.
I don't know nothing about that ass.
Ask about big now. Ask about me. No,
what? What are we doing? I feel like between you and this book, I'm just confused.
This book was just
what is going on?
Ghetto. It was so ghetto. I called my mom after I was reading it. I was just like, this is just so ghetto.
You're like, hey, I think you would love this book that I picked up.
If you ever want to cackle, just pick up a good old ghetto urban book, and it's like Love and Hip Hop written out without you wasting any time on the characters. Like everything is just right there. I mean, despite that, I will say, there's some positivity. Angel has these friends. Isn't it Roz? And
I know Kyra
and Roz, I think it is.
There's 3 though. I think there's either 2 or 3. That's why I was confused because Snake mentions 3. So it's like Kyra, Roz, and Taz. It's something. It's like 3. And then like when I was looking up what the book, because I was trying to see if Snake died. So I was Googling, like, did Big Nell kill Snake in this book? And like, I saw that, this is a book based on like 3 friends or whatever. But I'm like, then why did Snake add in the other girl?
Who did he add in?
It was like, hold on, Roz, Jazz, and Kyra.
Oh, right.
And so you touched on Big Nell and like her throat game. Snake basically beats everybody up. He just, if you say hi to him, he'll smack you. He'll kick you down. Like he'll hit you he'll pistol whip you or whatever. It doesn't take much. No. Does not take much from him. He's beating everybody up. So basically, he beat up Big Nell so bad that she almost died. And it was so sad because Big Nell wanted to keep some cash so she can go back home because her mom was on her deathbed. Yeah. And Snake was like, what you mean go back home? You want to do what? And decided to like beat her within an inch of her life because that makes sense. He could have just said no.
PTO request denied.
What? Like he really could have just denied her PTO. I'm like, I wonder if they get vacations as well. But yeah, so she recovers and she comes back to him and like we're thinking it's all sweet, she looks good, whatever, cooks him a good meal, gives him some sloppy top. It is what it is. Like he loves it. He loves her head even better than Angel's. Like that's his OG.
That's
whatever. after he ate that good ass meal, he starts to feel a little woozy and dizzy. And then, Big Nell is just in the back, like, oh, maybe you need to, like, have some
Lay down.
water,
Oh
lay
yeah, the
down.
bath.
Or whatever. And like, maybe you just need to relax. And he's like, well, what'd you do to me? Or whatever. And like he's chasing her around, drugged up. And then she takes a bat and beats his ass. Now, we cannot confirm or deny if he is still with us or what's going on.
Oh my
But
God.
I have a feeling, because I read a little bit of chapter 10 too. And I think one of the girls was like, oh, Angel, you still mad about Snake? How Snake's not talking to you? So I think we're going to find out what happened to him.
I know. I will say there are some gaps in this story.
Very much so.
That was a quick, like,
you
true
could tell it was
breakdown of
hastily
1 through
written.
10.
Should we switch to hot topics?
So we're really switching to that because I have some things that I want to talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
So I think there is some crazy ass shit happening in the world because the Powerball was just $2 billion. And then they had a technical difficulty. And then some bitch won in California.
Yeah.
And now Nikita Dragon is getting arrested.
Okay, so let's talk about Nikita Dragon getting arrested for being naked and like assaulting a police officer, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, did you hear that they put her in a men's facility?
Oh.
Yeah, did you hear that though?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so she was placed in a men's jail. So Nikita Dragon. But my thing is like, she's a trans girl. Whatever, trans girl with an eye, and she's worrisome, she's terrible, but like she's been fully transitioned for years.
That's why I'm confused. Like, what?
She was in a
I feel like, okay, it's wrong, but I feel like there's like, I'm tired of this shit.
That's she deserves it. Think she deserves what she got. My thing is like, she's not male. Why would y'all think that that's a man?
No mistake. There's no mistake.
She did with her without that makeup though, but she still didn't look like a boy.
Yeah, she didn't.
But she just wasn't cute. I was like, sheesh, Nikita, all that work you got done.
No,
that's how you look.
Low key, she's just a menace to society, but she definitely does not belong in a men's prison.
Yeah.
Or jail or whatever. That is wrong. It's just they was probably like, bitch. I mean, it's terrible, but I hope it gets better. It's not Brittany Griner. We need to be talking about that. But I move on. That's wrong too. And it's just not that I'm trying to balance them out. I'm just saying I'd rather talk about that than Nikita's crazy.
No, I feel you. And Nikita's out of jail. I think her bond was like $5,000. So it's not even like she was there.
She's probably gonna now be another race like she always is and talk about abuse.
Yeah.
And then bring it together to do some kind of movement that'll
collaboration.
be filmed.
A collab?
Oh, I know. I collab with Fenty because it's all representation.
I'm screaming. I hope Rihanna.
Oh, I hope. Yeah, she would never. Rihanna's a smart businesswoman.
She really is, though. She really is.
She is. Oh, did you see the new Fenty show? It's on. Not a sponsor, but if you have Amazon Prime, you should check it out.
Oh,
the Fenty show.
I don't have Prime anymore.
Oh. Okay, I'll let you know about it.
Thanks. What else? Okay, so yeah, the Brittany Griner thing. Yeah. That's interesting. Like, I know we touched on this. Was it last week?
I think
when we were talking about it.
Before.
Okay, yeah, people are still just like, oh, she broke the law or whatever. And I'm like, they're transferring her to a labor camp.
Yeah.
What all does that entail? Yeah. And like, why won't they give this lady back?
I know. She
literally had some vape. Was it vape? I feel like it was vape.
It was vape pens, yeah. It's crazy. Like,
that's wild.
It's terrible. It's truly terrible. Like, just to think about being in that situation. I mean, I know following what we just discussed too, but not to get into the differences, but I think the situation is terrible. I think it's not getting as much shine as it should for a number of interesting reasons. I think the fact that she's a woman plays into it. I think the fact of where it is plays into it. I think the fact that she's a lesbian plays into it. It's just terrible. Like, it's so, yes, she did do a crime, totally, but there are also people that committed that same crime that did not fit into any of those variables that aren't even going through the sentence that she was right now.
In Russia?
There was a girl who, there's an article about it too, who was found with similar substances, and like she did not nearly get as much time.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna try to find that and send it to you.
Yeah. You know, this is the first time I'm hearing that people have committed comparable crimes and they were not treated as harshly. I feel like if that is documented, what is your excuse for doing all of this?
Can check our sources, people.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just terrible. What's also terrible, did you have anything else to add about Britain? Is the fuckboy light skin mentality. I feel like Drake is the scum of the earth. I know that's terrible.
I think Drake is just,
he's
Drake
a troll.
He is a troll, but I feel like everybody loves Aubrey. Like Drake reminds me of the guy who is like, he's so worrisome. Like he can literally get away with anything. And like the girls will be like, oh, Aubrey. And like,
Drake,
I can't stand you, Aubrey. No, it's not even Drake. I can't stand you, Aubrey.
Yeah.
Like Aubrey. Like,
I know.
But like still come to my house and I'll still fix you a plate. But I can't stand you, Aubrey. Like that's what he's giving. Like he's giving pest. Like he'll troll you. Like I know, remember he was trolling Rihanna.
Yeah.
He'll troll like his exes. Like he's been no stranger to trolling people in songs. But this was vehement because it was like, okay, girl, at the end of the day, the line is clever. The one I'm thinking particularly about Megan, it's a clever line because it's like it is a double entendre.
Yeah.
And like, you know, if you don't care, if you like it, I love it. But what we're not gonna act like is that you weren't referring to Megan.
Exactly.
You literally mentioned Shots and Stallion.
Yeah, exactly.
Megan is like, we're not gonna act like you were not like, no, we're not gonna do that. Like you can refer to her, but we're not gonna act like you're not. And then what he said about Alexis Ohanian, it's kind of like that was just like, oh, and by the way, your man's a bitch. Like what?
Yeah. It's just he's giving
like
weird energy. Like
he's giving old man in the club, like trying to be hip.
I know, and it's
I do like that. One of the songs though, because I like 21. I kind of like 21 Savage, but
I like 21 Savage.
Yeah, he could kind of like. I remember this guy I used to mess around with, child. Like we used to fuck 21 Savage. So I was like, oh, but like he could rap or whatever. But I like that on the I think the song is on BS. And it comes off with 21, and he's like, had to cut some nicks off. They didn't mean me no good. Had to from the ghetto in. I had to grab my could and something. And I was like, oh, okay. And then you did a twerk. You did a good classy twerk going on. So I did enjoy that one. I was like, okay, 21.
I gotta check that one out.
He be on Clubhouse Child. I'll be like, hey, 21.
Oh, really?
He is very ugly. It's interesting. He's unattractive, but his mom is very pretty.
Really?
He's like, she be on Clubhouse too. Like they be on Clubhouse.
Oh, the girls be active.
It be 21 and 21 be on there a lot. He's probably like, he be on there a lot. And so does Tokyo Vanity, which is interesting.
I love Tokyo Vanity.
They're like besties.
I love her. She's so like, I enjoy her.
She's a little ignorant though, because she had a room one time with the it was like bridging the gap between the trans girls. And it was just, they were just being ignorant.
Oh, I think I heard, I follow, okay, so what's so interesting is I actually go on Bigo, and it's a hot mess express. Like, girl, it's
how often do you frequent there often?
So I don't go on, but I follow most of the people on YouTube. So like, they be talking about other shit. So with the whole Tokyo Vanity thing, the only reason I knew of it is because I would listen to Cherry the Boom.
And you can never say nothing to be about Clubhouse because Bigo is way worse.
I know, which is why I'd be like, oh my God, I can only do like...
You could only pick one because Bigo, because it looks like a cartoon. Isn't that the one that has like games and wizards, beeps and stuff going on?
Exactly. Don't be mean. Send a poo-la-la bean.
What?
It's just
and Kiki Wyatt was on there being worse than one time.
Yes.
Okay.
Calling Shaky a monkey, and lo and behold, he's in jail for scamming out. It's all a hot mess.
Okay. So with the whole Tokyo thing, basically like a trans girl approached her brother And so I guess like certain things like ticked him off about her or whatever. So he came to Tokyo and Tokyo was like, oh, well, you need to ask her these questions or whatever. And like that just like caused like a snowball effect of whatever. And I'm just like, they be tripping because these trans girls, for the most part, because I've never like, and that's the thing, people be acting like it's really that big of an effect. But I don't know about you. Maybe it's because you live in a bigger city. I think I have encountered maybe like 2 people that were obviously like men in wigs. They're like, I could be like, okay, no, that's what's something's going on here. Like you're queer. Like I don't know what's going on, but like you're obviously not a woman, but you have on a dress in a wig and you're just walking around work. So I could say like I'm 29. I've only seen 2 people like that. Anybody else that I've encountered that's been trans, I have not noticed.
Yeah.
So I don't think that trans people are like that big of an impact on like everyday life.
Yeah.
So it's like, why do we act as if they are? Like, you probably don't know any.
I
So
feel
what's
like
to be mad?
yeah, I feel like it's I don't know. I feel like it feeds a lot off of society. Like, don't get me wrong, I think being recognized is important, but like sometimes you have to carve that space for yourself. And I just personally found that like there's been trans girls forever. I mean, whether they were called the T girls, whether the language has evolved. Like I remember having a conversation with someone not so long ago, and they're like, you don't hear anybody say like that's gay anymore or like that's a faggot. I'm like, like relatively in some places, sure. But thinking about like how often that was said like when I was like growing up and like all these things, it's very different than now. And we're not even that old. So it's just like I feel like because then you really had to like not form your own lane, but like just really be yourself and like accept who you were, and you would just do that naturally. Like you really wouldn't think about it. And everything else that came with it just came with it, and you would either deal with it or not. I mean, and it could be a generational thing, but like even forming some of my own ties to the community, being queer and like going through my own growth in that. It's just I feel like society just makes everything like pick me and like let's react. And it's just like,
I'm
child,
like, I don't
it's
know none of them
okay.
people.
Do
I
what you
don't.
want to do. Nobody really cares.
I
And
just
be
say,
happy. Like,
do
I
whatever
don't
you
know.
have to do to maintain your safety. But it's like
Yeah.
when you have people that are just like concerned about the overtaking of the world by this, it's like you don't know none of them people. And
Exactly.
you probably, if you do, you don't, because they didn't tell you, because they look probably better than, like, because some of the girls, like,
Yeah.
well, the
Oh my
rich
God,
ones
yeah.
or the ones that I see, like, out in the media or like
Yeah.
on Clubhouse, they be looking good. And a
Snatch.
lot of them
Yeah.
don't even have like their bottom surgery, but like they be wearing like the bikinis and stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, how is that going on? So it's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, a nice
I don't
tuck,
know.
girl. Nice tuck.
Child, like
Yeah,
my
he's a
thing is
take
like,
real.
that is none of my
Yeah.
business, but it's like it's always interesting when you have
Yeah.
people that just want to like fight with it and just be like, well, you're taking, but it's like, how are they taking away? I guess I just don't understand the
I
logic of like
mean,
you are taking away from X identity. And at least the ones that I've actually heard, because I don't know too many, I don't know any.
yeah.
Right. So anything that I've ever heard about trans people has been from trans people from Clubhouse. That
Yeah.
is my scope. And like I've
Yeah.
never heard any of them try to like take away from like my overall womanhood. It's more
Yeah.
so like I'm this type of woman, you're that type of woman, but we're
Yeah.
women. So like
Yeah.
you're not trying to like, I've never heard that. But then when I hear people that are like concerned with it, they're like, oh well, like they're trying to take away from you. Or you're taking away, you can't have kids, you can't give birth. And it's like, well, no one said that they could. Like, did I miss something? Or did they
Yeah.
say that they were gonna do that?
I
Or
feel
like,
like there's multiple angles to that conversation because I
yeah.
do agree with some of the points that you're making. But then I think of things like sports, and personally, I have my own opinions about that. And I do think there should be a separation. If you're in the trans community,
Yeah.
you should that should be its own thing. I don't want to equate it to like the Special Olympics, but they have their own thing because
I'm screaming.
that's their, that's what their qualifications fall under. And it's wrong to pair women with, women who have transition or are transitioning, because from a physiological standpoint and just even based through just strength and nature, it's two total different things. And I think
What I
that
was,
needs to be a bigger conversation. I agree with everything else you said, but I
yeah,
feel like in that space, when that dialogue happens and people are like, I feel like there needs to be more conversations about
exactly.
that stuff, because that is what matters.
Because what I do want to say is that whenever people talk about the sports conversation, I notice that it's always the most extreme case. It's
Yeah.
always like, oh, I'm 30. I'm a 30-year-old man. I'm taking hormones. Now
Yeah.
I'm a woman in track.
Yeah.
It's like the most extreme
Yeah.
situation when it could be someone like Zaya who's taking hormones, who started taking hormones at like an 11-year-old girl and an 11-year-old boy. Same physical capability.
Yeah.
Anyone who has not been through any
That's
puberty.
true.
So it's like, I feel like people just jump to like the work, like Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn. People jump to like a Caitlyn scenario, but it's like, I think that like there needs to be like testing and like there needs to be, I do think that there needs to be some limits or whatever, but there needs to be testing to make sure that you do not have like any type of advantage and then go from there. But
I agree with that.
yeah, it's just so extreme. And that's another thing. It's like, it's so extreme, but like literally that's not happening anywhere. Maybe like twice. Like that's it's not happening. It may happen once or twice.
That's
but
true.
people act like all these trans women in sports. Where? Like the swim girl?
That's true. Yeah, there's a swim girl. There's a couple. I mean, I will say though, there's definitely a lot. I'm not a sports girl, so like I really don't know. I just know from like, of course, this whole thing we're still talking about media and what's shown. But I do think, to your point, like there needs to be a lot more science with that and analysis before I think, the approach that's been what it's been just continues to be, because I do think there needs to be, just another look on that,
Yeah, it
but
can't
I
be like a
also
everything goes because it's like, nope, that's dangerous.
exactly, but
But
I also
also,
think, sorry, to your
oh, go
point,
ahead.
like I feel like that will go back to like all those other conversations because people don't know how to be objective. I personally feel like it's like, okay, because you're saying this, you're not saying that. And it's like, what I said, and I find that's on both sides of the community. Like those that will listen, those that are a part of it, those are opposed, it's like, no, it's very mixy.
It's so nuanced. And it's like, honestly, like I think those are the most fruitful conversations, the ones that pertain to like gender, because I still can't even like wrap my mind around it, but like I find myself gravitating to those conversations. And then other I don't even know if we can use this on YouTube, child. So like whatever. So we can just whatever. But like there was another room that I was in, and this girl, she was, I don't know if she was being facetious or what she was doing, but like she's had a little tiff with the trans people. Like she's really just like, I think that trans women, like I think that they are men. And it's like it's easier for me to digest it if you have had surgeries, like if you have had whatever, but it's like, that's what I think. But it's like I'll still like respect you and call you your pronouns and stuff like that.
Of course.
Which I thought is kind of like, you can think, I think voicing that is kind of counterproductive because it's like, oh, like I hate Black people, but hey, I'm not going to call you the N-word. It's like, you could have just kept the first part to yourself and just like
compliment.
You could have just kept it to yourself if you're going to respect the person anyway, quote unquote. So I always find that interesting because it's like, or you like, now I have a problem with you because you question my existence, not mine. I am cisgendered. So I don't, I'm not a trans. So to be clear, but coochie from the birth. But
oh Lord.
anywho.
I agree with that. I mean, I agree with I think it's wrong. Listen, okay, if we're
It's
gonna be
not nice to
honest,
say out loud. You can't say like
it's not nice to say out loud, but if we
Yeah.
can sit here and know what we know about this world that we live in and the times that we are in,
Mhm.
people are going to think what they want to think. And I think it's wrong for there to be such light shown on like racial inequality and a true disposition and how people feel about Black people or
Uh-huh.
whatever. You know, there were a lot of Asian attacks happening here on the East Coast at one point in time. And
Mhm.
I just personally find that like there are a lot of things that, you know, encourage that radical thinking.
Mhm.
And when it comes to someone just being honest, like I don't know the full context of her spiel, but like I think that's totally fine. Like, you know, it's
Mhm.
wrong to verbalize in a way that's not productive in conversation. Like I think, you know, if I have a point and I'm voicing that to gather understanding, that's a
Mhm.
good time for that to be mentioned. If
Mhm.
I am just meeting you, this information is not relevant. But if I'm
Right.
trying to work through understanding, you
Mhm.
know, and this is where I am, and this is where I want to be in the process, you know, because if it's like, okay, I understand them and I'm welcoming, you
Mhm.
know, to what you're saying, but this is just how I am, and I'm trying to convince myself
Mhm.
to be a bit more open to spaces. I think that's when you can share information like that because
Yeah.
it's actionable. You know, you're trying to work somewhere, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I don't normally like you kind of people because of this, but I can work
Mhm.
with you. Like, you know,
So it is under the guise of like deeper
yeah.
conversation, and those people they don't get too far because they're
Mm,
disrespectful, and I think
yeah.
it's hard to like. I just don't see how realistically you get past someone questioning your identity. Like, for example, for me, like if we were having a conversation and if someone was to be like, oh, like, I don't think, because I've heard this stuff on Clubhouse as well about how they don't think that people from the diaspora are Black, right?
Mhm.
So, like, if you're telling me this, how far can we really go in the conversation? You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
if I'm saying,
Mhm.
like, ooh, like, I don't see how, like, if you're just questioning someone's like identity, it's like at
Yeah.
this point, like, how are you not attacking me? Or like, how,
Yeah.
like, how do I get
Yeah. That's
because I'm gonna
fair.
tell you I am, and you're gonna be like, "Well, I don't think so," and it's gonna be like, "Okay, well, next topic." That's how
Yeah.
we or you're gonna go back and forth, and someone's gonna get, like, super offended about it.
Yeah, so I will say, like, okay, I had to have a conversation and basically like share perspective because there was a
Mhm.
situation where a European person sent like a little GIF about or GIF, so is it GIF or GIF? I don't know, a
I
little
always say
meme.
"Jif."
Yeah, I would say GIF too. A
Yeah.
little like GIF about looting and it had Black people in it. Obviously this European person was not Black. And they
Mhm.
sent it amongst the group.
Were they, like, from another country, or were they just
Yeah,
the
they're from
girl?
another
Okay.
country. Um, and there was someone in the group who was really close to someone, and they were Black, and they were basically like, "You can't say this is wrong, whatever, whatever." And they like feistly responded to like what they said. So the European person was just like, "I don't understand because it's wrong," and I'm like, "Okay." Perspective. Like, you know, I get what you're saying. It is
Mhm.
wrong to loot. Looting is wrong.
Mhm.
But the context that you decided to send this in to someone who is a minority, not the group that's actually affected, you know, or the people that were looting, but they are a minority.
Mhm.
Um, and they felt some kind of way. Like, it's important for you to understand why there's another perspective other than your own, you know, and
Yeah.
why that matters. So I think like depending on the situation, like you can have a conversation because I am someone who I am Black. Like the GIF was about Black people looting, and it's like, oh, is this what trying to basically like live looks like? Because they were like, you know, they're saying, oh, they're looting to like do whatever. When that whole shit was happening with well, it's not like it's different than any day now, but all of those things that were happening a couple years ago. You know, and like all of the propaganda and just media images that were around that and just the stories. So like it's like you have to have understanding, but I'm also not like looking at this person like you're any kind of way other than unaware, you know, because like honestly, you don't really understand the context of these things, but you have a perspective which is based on your position. So I think it's a little bit more layered. I will say it was a good conversation, you know, because I took the stance of like instead of being offended, because it's hard hearing someone like truly be unaware, because I feel like as a minority, as a Black man, I have to be aware of so many
hyper
other
aware of
things.
everything. And you said that this
Like,
person was like actually foreign too.
yeah. So it's just like, damn, like the fact that you are just like thinking you could say this and like why, it's like baffling. But you know, people don't have that experience. So it's like I would rather be proactive and guide you through the perspective on this versus be reactive, because like it's shit like this that will really make me want to like hate somebody, because it's just like, why are you, how are you, but it's like, okay, why are you, how are you, because I really want to know. It may not come from a place of hatred, which is you have to put yourself in a position to be open to that dialogue, and I'm not always there, and I don't think anyone always will be either. So
it's a lot, a lot, but the context of the room was, if people can be transgender, why can't they be transracial? So
oh Lord, wait,
that exactly, so that was
just
so
why
we can unpack, because I was like, because aren't they both social constructs?
Well, that's the thing.
I'm confused.
Because gender is a social construct.
Yes. And they try to say racist too, though.
Child, what?
Yes, like you need to get on Clubhouse. So
the
girls are like, race is a social construct. It does not exist. We are all humans. It was created for a hierarchy. So that is the stance. So it's kind of like,
good night,
child.
I am done.
On that note, this is your daily dose of race relations and when thugs cry. Because this just went to shit. Because what are we talking about? But as always, don't forget to shop www.essentiallyuzo.com. That is my affirmation-based business filled with affirmation floor mats for your young little Black and brown girls. Coming soon will be different types of hair accessories and any type of item that you can see in your bathroom, riddled with affirmations and beautiful words for your young girls. Again, that is www.essentiallyuzo.com. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.